Hello, I'm Miranda Braun, and I'm the founder and the president of the Miranda Braun Diversity Leadership Foundation. I'm also the host and the producer for the D.A.R.E podcast. This D.A.R.E podcast is all about having a successful mindset, and we have a new partnership with City AM, where we're going to be interviewing some of the most successful mindsets in the City of London. Now, for those of you who might be wondering, well, what does the D.A.R.E podcast stand for? D.A.R.E is a model that I've been using throughout my success mindset coaching. D stands for having the determination to dream bigger. A is taking the appropriate action. R is having the resilience, and also the self-reassessment in terms of how to look at your skill sets. And the E is having that positive energy to make your dreams come true. So if you would like to be inspired and learn how to develop a successful mindset, you need to be tuning in to our podcast episodes where we will be interviewing some of the most successful mindsets in the City of London. And it all starts right here, right now. So stay tuned. It's really going to be fun. And there's going to be lots of laughter and lots of honest, real talk. So don't forget to tune in, follow and subscribe. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today, Dame Neslyn. Hello and welcome to the D.A.R.E podcast, which is being sponsored and partnered with City AM. Introduce yourself to the audience and our listeners because you are just amazing, and I'm so excited and delighted that you're here with us today.
Miranda, how could it be that I'm sitting here with you today? I am just so delighted. I am Neslyn Watson-Druée, and I am here having a wonderful time with you. So
I know.
I just let you ask me questions and I respond.
I love it. I mean, we've been talking for about 10-15 minutes before we started the cameras rolling. I was like, this is such good stuff. Let's get the cameras rolling now. So thank you so much for joining. And it's funny because up until about 2 weeks ago, I feel like I know lots of people, but I only found out who you were 2 weeks ago when you got your damehood last month from Princess Anne. So congratulations on that. Like literally, I think that's amazing. So I want to start from the very beginning. What were you like as a child? I know in 1969, you came from Jamaica to this country, which is the United Kingdom. Tell me about your childhood. What were you like as a child? And did you want to be this healthcare pioneer and leader when you were a child?
Well, I'm from rural Jamaica, from a place that is called Eldersley in St. Elizabeth. And if you were with me at about age 8 years young, you would have found me sitting on the veranda, looking right across to the Cockpit Mountains, and I would daydream. And I would daydream. And I remember in particular, one day my father came and he thought I was just being idle. Dare him thinking I'm idle.
How dare?
Yes. And he said to me, Neslyn. Yes, Papa. Because, you know, he was an army man, and when he calls your name, something is wrong. So, yes, Papa. And he's, live for something, live for a purpose. And that made an indelible mark in my brain.
Yeah.
And I just knew I wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have role models of what nurses were like, with the exception of our public health nurse, which is what is a health visitor in Jamaica. We call them public health nurse. Yeah. And, you know, she'd come to the school and vaccinate us and all of, and yes, and so, yeah. So I just knew I wanted to be a nurse.
That's amazing. And I'm mindful that we haven't really told the audience what you do and what you've done. Would you like to share with the audience what you're doing now?
Okay.
And then what you've done. I mean, I've got your bio here, and you've done everything from, you know, now you're a non-executive director, you're in the boardroom, you're a coach. You've also been a nurse when you first came to this country. You've been a lecturer, a university lecturer, a midwife, a health visitor. You've done so much, but I know most of your experience has been in the healthcare sector.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us, what are you doing now and what have you done historically, and how did you get there?
Okay, so at the moment I work primarily as an executive coach with UK government.
Yeah.
So through Ernest Young, I started as an executive coach with the UK government, and then, the contracts change, and
Yeah.
we all come in now under Ernest Young, and so that's as a premier executive coach. But prior to that, I have been a business owner. I developed my business in 1989. I'll tell you more about that because there's a story to that.
I love that.
I have had 35 plus years in boards, the 21 continuous years as a board non-executive director in the NHS, 10 of those 21 years as chairman of a commissioning organization, healthcare commissioning organization, Kingston Primary Care Trust as it was. Then I also served as a senior lecturer in higher education. So the story starts that I came here in 1969, 22nd of March 1969, and to be trained as a nurse with the intention of getting my certificate and qualification in public health, health visiting, to work for 5 years, and then to go back to Jamaica to be a big noise, as it were.
Yeah.
So, a senior public health person setting up programs.
I think that was the aspiration for many Caribbean people, to
Yes,
go back home.
to go back home.
And many of them haven't gone back home.
So
they're still here.
Yes, I met Peter Druee. So I am Neslyn Watson, and Druee is Peter. Peter is from Guernsey. And so we married, and the rest is history.
I love that. How did you meet?
Okay.
Well, we're going to have a bit of successful mindsets. It's not just about your professional, personal as well. How to meet the love of your life.
Well, that's another story as well, because I had there's love, there's sadness, and everything's tied into the story. I had a beautiful masonette in Tooting, southwest London, and I was targeted by the National Front.
Oh my gosh! When was this? Was this in the 80s?
Yes. Oh. And so in the 70s. Oh. I sold this masonette and decided I would not live in a flat again. And I needed to buy a house. But of course, I couldn't afford a house. So I bought a tumble-down house that needed everything to it. It was rat-infested. It was cockroach-infested.
Gosh, where was this?
The Streatham Hill. But it was multi-occupied. They let it, and, it's gone. Oh. So anyway, I decided that I would decorate one room at a time. So I was a mere health visitor at the time. So I didn't have a lot of money.
Wow.
Because the little car I had, the 4 tires were slashed and acid poured all over the car.
Because the NF did that.
Yes, yes.
And for those that don't know, NF is National Front, and they were a racist group of people.
So I bought this house, and so the kitchen was condemned. So, it had to be ripped out. And so I was cooking on an electric frying pan.
Oh, my gosh.
So, anyway.
Sometimes and this is having a successful mindset. It's not all glamorous and getting damehood. You've got to start somewhere. And sometimes where you start is not very glamorous.
Yes. So by now, I had finished 2 rooms in the house.
And what were those 2 rooms? The kitchen?
No. The kitchen had to come next. So I had a dining room in which the electric frying pan would work, and the lounge.
Oh, right.
So the bedroom come later because
for entertaining.
We are Caribbean.
Yeah, you've got
you
people.
Have to have your front room.
Yeah, you're right. You've got to have that special front room that no one can go into.
You have
for guests.
You have to have the front room. Anyway, and I was studying.
My granny was the same.
And I was studying my first degree is through Open University. So I was doing Open University at the time.
While working.
And
building out this house.
Building out this house. So
Which university did you go to? Was it Open University?
Open University was my first degree.
And what did you do there?
Psychology.
Okay.
So
which is all about the mindset,
the mindset and all of that. So at the end of 2 rooms, I couldn't afford a holiday, so I decided that I would go to the opera because that's the area and so I met my husband because he had what you call submission for six operas. And he said, will you be coming back? And I said, no, this was a treat. And he said, well, I have got tickets. Would you like to come to the next? And so the story began from there.
I love
and then he got
that.
very serious, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to be serious because I thought, he's white and black, and all that I had
So
gone.
you got, and this is in when, the 70s? So all this multicultural, because I come from a mixed race family, and I know my mother tells me in the 70s that mixed race couples used to get a lot of grief. So did you guys experience that?
Well, yes and no. People used to stare at us.
Yeah, a lot of staring. Even now, my parents are on the stairs. I'm like, why are they looking at us like that, Mum?
Exactly.
So annoying.
Exactly. So that was the Peter bit.
Yeah. I love that. So when did you decide, actually, I'm going to take this guy seriously?
We got married in 1981. We met in 79 and we got married in 81. But I tell you something. Just before we were married, few days before we were married, my father telephoned.
From the Caribbean?
From the Caribbean. And he wanted to speak to Peter. So, from Peter.
But did Peter ask your father for your hand?
Well, no.
Oh, that's probably why he wanted to chat.
So he wanted to chat with Peter. But listen to how he introduced himself to Peter.
I can imagine.
Peter, I'm Norman Watson. Peter, I hear you're marrying my daughter. Yes, so Peter being the, nice English. Yes, I hear you're marrying my daughter. If you have any doubts, don't do it.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
I know. I can really imagine. But he was probably doing you a favour, if you've got any doubts, because he probably thought, mixed marriage, there's going to be challenges, also with the children.
Yes.
I'm sure did you have children?
No, I didn't have children in the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But this is such a wonderful love story. And you two still together?
We're still together.
I love
1981, we're still together.
I love that.
And I will show you a picture later.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see it.
Because he's as proud as...
Oh, I love that.
And he looks after me, and we are so different. We are chalk and cheese.
I think that's the perfect combination.
Yes.
You don't want someone that's exactly like you. You need a bit of yin and yang.
Yes.
It's like my parents. They met 54 years ago. They've been married for 52 years, and they're still to this day madly in love. And I think it's just a testament to mixed race marriages or any marriages. True love is there, and true love lasts.
Absolutely.
So I love that. So this is all about successful mindsets, not only professionally but also personally as well.
Yes.
So I love the inspiration and the energy around that. So what made you? So you've arrived in. Was it London when you arrived?
Yes, I arrived from Jamaica, landed in Heathrow 22nd of March 1969 with 7 cotton dresses, enough underwear to last me for a week without washing, and 3 pairs of pajamas.
Wow.
I had no boots, I had no coat. I was met by a distant relative who had never met before, who brought a coat and a pair of boots to the airport.
Because I imagine March was probably still cold like it is in this country now, They
took me home and they gave me a meal, and then they left me at Denmark Hill Station, and I had to find my way into Kent to go and start my nurse training.
They left you at a station, and Kent is far.
So I found my way from Denmark Hill to Charing Cross, and from Charing Cross out into Kent. But early days, developing resilience,
Totally.
It got a bit tough. There's a 90. I couldn't do it now. I don't know if I would.
You could do it now. And it's amazing what you can do when you're in survivor mode and you're here and you've got to make a success of it.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your career journey.
So my career journey. How
did you do all the great things that you've been doing?
Well, I trained as a nurse, and very soon after the nursing story is another story as well, because in order to enter nursing here, I didn't really know how to, but I worked with Jamaica Public Services, was in the lower echelon in the civil service. I was just a gopher, really, in the registry. You would get the files for the important people, bring them the files, and bring back the files, and file them. And And I was speaking to one of the engineers from England, and I said, I want to go to England to study nursing, and how do I go about that? And he told me then that I needed to go to the Overseas Employment Bureau. And it so coincided because at the time, Enoch Powell was the Minister of Health, and who is no longer alive.
Yeah.
And Enoch Powell was out there recruiting nurses because it was the end of the Windrush.
Yeah.
So I came through the Jamaican High Commission. They found me a school. But when I went to the school, so I got there, and they said, Miss Watson, we haven't got good news. Our organization were inspected by the General Nursing Council, and we have been downgraded to a second-level nurse training provider, so state enrolled nursing. Of course, I had nowhere else to go, and they said to me, you have two choices. You can either work as an auxiliary, or you can begin this second-level training, and because you were recruited for the first-level training, at the ending of your second-level training, we will find you a training school, and we will support you. And I said, well, it's no point me working as an auxiliary, so I will do the second-level training.
Yeah.
So I started from the lowest in nursing as a state-enrolled nurse, and then I retrained, additional top-up, as it were, to become a state-registered nurse.
Wow.
To be a health visitor in Jamaica, you also had to be a midwife. So I trained as a midwife with the intention of moving straight into health visiting training, which I did. I was one of the first cohort to be trained with the higher diploma in health visiting at South Bank Polytechnic, as it was then. It's now called South Bank University.
Yeah.
So I worked in Wimbledon as a health visitor, loved health visiting, but also found that I was very interested in health promotion. And so I did a lot of work around the school's health education program. Then I went off to Croydon to be as a health promotion officer, and I had responsibility for maternal and child care and to reduce accidents in children.
Yeah.
I recognize that the teachers don't take you very seriously if you yourself are not a trained teacher. So I thought I would get even with the teachers. So I went and retrained as a teacher so that I could impact the curriculum.
Oh, wow. So you're actually a trained teacher
I'm
as well.
I'm a trained teacher as well.
Trained nurse, trained teacher, university lecturer.
So I worked in the further education sector, then into the higher education sector, and then Project 2000 came on board, which was about nurses having more focus on health promotion and understanding the wider dynamics of health and disease. And so I thought, this is my day. I am now ready to go back into the health service.
I love that.
So I went for an interview. And at the end of a certain point, the director of human resources called and said, Neslyn, there's good news and there's bad news. Which do you want? I said, well, if it's good and bad, give me the bad and I can go out dancing. I'm Jamaican. So, I want to, So she said, the bad news is we are not going to appoint you for the post for which you applied. The good news is we are going to appoint you. Here are the parameters within which we want you to work. Write the job description and tell us how much to pay you.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. So it was like a promotion, even more senior than what you'd applied for.
Exactly.
I love that.
Write the job description and tell us how much to pay you.
Hello.
But then, by now, I'm
hold
pretty
on.
savvy.
When they tell you how much to pay, like, I know, I'd be like, well, hello. How do you manage that? Like, without taking the mickey?
No. But by then, you see, I was savvy, sufficiently savvy, because at weekends, I used to do volunteering in the city with the Pepperell unit, which is now the Work Foundation. So in the Pepperell unit, we learned it was all about women development at that time. And I won a scholarship as one. So ESSO gave scholarships to the volunteers, and I won a scholarship. And so I learned about personal development and empowerment and your value. And so when she said to me, "Tell us how to pay you," how much to pay you, I asked for £25,000.
Good. Hello. And this is it, because women don't always ask for what they are worth,
Exactly.
So I love that. I love that.
So, beloved Miranda, I was literally walking on water.
Oh, I bet you were.
And I was very successful
because
they wanted me to develop modular curriculum for the nurses who were state-registered nurses but didn't have a degree. By now, I had my first degree and I had my master's degree, and that's another story. So I am on fire. So and the programs had to be validated by the English National Board for Nursing, Midwifery and Health Visiting, and also by the National Academic Award, CNAA. And so I put 5 modules on. My darling, the 5 modules went through without dotting an I and crossing the T's.
I love that.
And my manager said to me, "You have done 2 years' work in 9 months."
There you go.
And so I was enjoying everything.
I love
the
it.
manager went off to develop a degree program in Middlesex University, first degree program there. New manager came in. New manager said to me, "Neslyn, I find you threatening because you're black, you're a woman, you're intelligent, and I'm going to block you." At least she was honest.
Wow.
Those were her words. And I thought, no, I've got too far for anybody to tell me that they're going to block me. By now, I was a nurse, midwife, health visitor, university lecturer, first degree, master's degree, ESSA scholarship. I'm going out to be an entrepreneur. I couldn't spell the word.
So you actually left that to go be a business owner.
Business owner.
Isn't that sad, though,
1999,
that
yes.
she knew that she was going to block you, so you then couldn't continue down that route? But it's great that you started your own business. And what business did you actually start?
So I started Beacon, which I still have. But it was a Beacon Organizational Development and Training. I called it there. Now, it is Beacon Organizational Development Limited.
I love it. I love that. So hold on. You talked about Windrush and you won a medal from the Queen, the former Queen, with regards to Windrush. How did you win that? And also with regards to, or not win, how were you awarded that? And also with your damehood. You got a damehood in February 2024. I'm not sure when this episode will be live, but what did you do in order to get the Windrush Award and also your damehood? Clearly all the stuff that you've been doing within healthcare, it's a lot of hard work. But why don't we start with Windrush? Because I think lots of people might not realise what that is. Do you want to explain to the audience who might not know what Windrush is, what that is, and how you got your medal and the work you did around that? Because I think that's really important to educate our audience who aren't aware.
Yes, and so I'm going to take you right back to the beginning. So when I came out and decided to be an entrepreneur, I was still very, very angry. And I decided that many managers didn't actually have leadership development and they didn't know how to treat people. And so I wrote to Virginia Bottomley, who was the Secretary of State for Health. And I said, the health service doesn't know how to treat people, and it needs of color, and it
in particular.
Yes, and it needs a leadership development, and I can provide a leadership development program, and I would like to be sponsored. And so I was sponsored through the NHS Women's Unit. So I put on a leadership development program for the NHS, and it ran for 3 years as a national program and then as a regional program in Yorkshire and Humber, Birmingham and the Black Country, and in the South and West NHS regions. That's why I won the MBE for Nursing Leadership and was awarded at Mansion House for a National Training Award.
I love that.
And so the Windrush came in because I was at the last batch of the people who came in from the Caribbean. So I'm the tail end.
So you
of
were the
Windrush.
last batch in 1969.
Yes.
Because you were telling me, because this is these episodes we're in the City AM podcast studios, and they're partnered and sponsored by City AM. Every guest that we have on this particular platform, they've got to have that city focus. I know when I had that conversation with you, you also said that you worked and helped 22 organisations 22 in the 90s when you won your award at Mansion House.
So so in 1993, 89, 90, it was 90, because in 93 I developed the health service and they had a leadership program. So it's 1990. I worked through the London Enterprise Agency, which no longer exists.
Right.
And the London Enterprise Agency brought 22 of the multinationals together. So I ran a personal development program for them. And so they were some of the sponsorship came from Midland Bank, Barclays Bank, Westminster, London Underground, British Rail, BBC. So as a result of that, it opened up opportunities for me, because I went into the BBC to develop a mentoring program for BBC Network Radio.
I think that's amazing.
I could talk forever.
I know. So we could talk forever, but we've still got some more to go. So we're not quite finished yet. So you're in the boardroom as well.
Yes.
And you're in healthcare, but we have a diverse audience listening and watching our D.A.R.E podcast episodes. And some are students who are in the classroom, in university, school, as well as board directors and middle managers and everyone in between, even those that are just starting their career. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in having a healthcare career? What advice would you give them in terms of success tips?
I would say go for your health service career, because there are so many careers in the health service.
Yeah.
We tend to talk about doctors and nurses and allied health professions, but the health service also has administrators. The health service also has so when lots of people who will be technology focused. The health service need more technologists.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about AI and technology and how can we automate so many processes.
So I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
And always aim high. And whatever you do, put your heart and soul in it, and don't do a mediocre job.
Yeah.
I have never really done a mediocre job, and so therefore I was always tapped on the shoulder, even with racism and sexism.
Yeah. And how did you find, like, in terms of racism and sexism, are you able to share any examples and when that was and how you handled that? Because even now, sadly, in 2024, we still have racism and sexism. And we have lots of young and people of, next generation, my generation, your generation, and beyond, who are still facing this. So why don't we start with what examples do you have and how did you handle that, which might encourage others and inspire others to stand up for themselves and not tolerate that?
Well, so when my manager said, I find you threatening because you're black, you're woman, intelligent, the first thing I did was then to evaluate my skills. I don't have to stand for this, because it's a law of the universe. What you focus on expands.
Yeah.
It's out there. Racism and sexism is out there. If you give your energy to it, you'll want to take people through industrial tribunals and all of those sorts of things. Nobody wins because it is just so draining.
That's right.
So if you can't see the power that I am, I will take my power somewhere else, Miranda.
Yeah.
So that's the message I give to young people.
Yeah.
Know your skills. Know what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Take your passion to somewhere else, because for every person who may be racist or sexist, there's another person over there who has love.
Yeah. And I think that is it. Life is too short to be staying in situations where you're not being appreciated. And this is what D.A.R.E represents.
Yes.
Having the resilience, but also having the right energy and the affirmations and taking the action to know, actually, if you're not going to appreciate, but not everyone's in that situation. Some people have got bills to pay, and they might be looking and they're not in a fabulous opportunity like you where you're getting tapped on the shoulder. So for people that might be in that situation, I think actually writing and reporting and speaking up.
Writing and reporting and negotiating. Because when I started my business, I didn't have a bank account because I thought I have very little money at this stage. So I decided how much I needed to be paid per day. I said I had to be paid £150 per day.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I would do some other things. So clarify. So the first things I learned very early is work out all of your bills. So how much do you need to earn? And then clarify that, because the universe likes a made up mind.
Yeah.
Once you're actually clear about what you want,
I'm on that page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those opportunities will come. So I negotiated for what I want. And to this day, I still negotiate for what I want. I am not going to work for less than what I'm worth or for less than what my money wants.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that whole universe, because I'm also a success mindset coach. And
Yes.
it's all about the daily affirmations within the A.
Yes.
And it's about the mindset. It's about, and I truly believe that if you make a decision about something in your life, and you just leave it up to the universe, and if you're religious, you leave it up to
Whatever.
God, whoever you believe in, it does materialize. All of a sudden, you come across people, opportunities
Exactly.
to make these things happen. So you're in the boardroom. How did you get into the boardroom? Because I'm a big advocate of the healthcare. For example, my background is law and finance. I did not really have a direct NHS healthcare background, yet I've been on the board of the NHS Foundation, the UK's largest NHS foundation trust, which is Guy's and St Thomas, for over 1 year. This is all about having those diverse mindsets and experiences in the boardroom to help take the healthcare, the UK health care system to the next level. So how did you get into the boardroom? And I've touched upon the fact that I was also a senior visiting fellow at Oxford University working on the Brawn Review. Yeah. So how did you get into the boardroom? What advice would you give to women and men like us from our diverse backgrounds, or even non-diverse backgrounds? What advice would you give to get into the boardroom? And I would love to get your views on how do we make the boardroom more sustainable and more inclusive.
Well, how I got into the board, I encourage other people now to look for opportunities and apply.
Yeah.
So that's how I encourage more people to get into the boardroom.
You've got to put your hand up and say,
put your hand up.
Ready. Yeah.
But when I got into the boardroom, I was tapped on the shoulder. Somebody said to me, come to Lambeth Healthcare. And I looked at them and I said, you're joking. Me? Anyway, so
and Lambeth is great. I was in Lambeth yesterday. It's one of the areas that we cover, so it's a great.
So I first got into the boardroom of Lambeth Healthcare, which was an integrated trust that had mental health, community, children, and learning disabilities. So I learned my craft across at the executive level, across those 4 areas, until the government decided it was going to get rid of integrated healthcare trust and then develop community trust and mental health trust separately. So I was one of the first non-executives to go into community trust. So I served in community trust, Merton, Sutton and Wandsworth, until that was disbanded. And when it was disbanded, I was tapped on the shoulder to become chairman of Kingston Primary Care Trust. So, but how did all that happen? All of that happened because I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about healthcare, and I am very passionate about leadership. And I speak truth to power. I said, this isn't working. This is what we need. So coming into the damehood, I have been a positive role model and very passionate. I developed the Mary Seacole leadership, in the sense that I still have the photograph of Brian Mawhinney giving me the $250,000 at the time for the first Mary Seacole bursaries.
I love that. And the Mary Seacole statue, I was there. Were you at the unveiling?
No, I was not at the unveiling. But it was somebody else who took that level. So it is Dame Elizabeth Anyuanyu who went ahead and developed the Mary Seacole statue. But I put Mary Seacole on the map in terms of the Mary Seacole scholarship and also negotiating for the Mary Seacole bursaries.
I love that.
And
I think it's so important to have you here as a guest, because I've been on the board and chair of many organisations, across all different sectors and backgrounds. But I think it's really important for us to highlight the contributions that Black people have made in this country and within the city. And you have definitely made a great, wonderful contribution, which is why you are now a dame, which is just amazing.
And the damehood is for developing women and minorities.
I love
How
that.
cool could that be?
It's just amazing, and I think this is something that we need more of. It's definitely changed over the the last decade or so, where more women are helping each other and supporting each other. And we've also got so many male allies as well who are doing the same. So that's wonderful. So I've mentioned the Boardroom Review, and it's all about boardroom sustainability, inclusion and corporate governance. What do you think the boardroom should be doing to make it more inclusive and more sustainable?
I think there are a number of things that the boardroom needs to be doing. I do believe that you need to look at the pipeline, and I believe that board members need to be allowing others to shadow and developing them. I also believe that where they advertise, access is very important. And sometimes, even this day, you can find it's a close-knit network. People don't always know the opportunities out there. And people need to be encouraged. I think before any recruitment is made, I think the boards need to have open days. The chair and chief executive need to have open days and invite diverse people in and communities in, so that the message can actually go out. And I also believe that you shouldn't be just looking for a certain type. I think you need to, when we look at the communities that we serve, from whether you are in banking, whether you are in healthcare, education, wherever you are, we are serving diverse communities. We need to look at the diverse communities that we are serving and ensure that there is sufficient representation, that people can speak the language of what those communities need. When you're talking about corporate governance, how can you say you're meeting the needs of the community when you have no idea what the community is?
That's it.
Tell me.
And that's why you need a member from the community sometimes to actually educate the board on that. And that's what it's all about, is having a boardroom that represents the society that we're actually operating in and serving. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So I think, I would say sustainability, it's about information, it's about access, it's about nurturing and development, and it's about the talent pipeline.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that. We could talk forever. I mean, we've said with these podcasts we're going to keep them to about 30 minutes. I know we're over a bit, but this conversation I think is so important. And to have someone like you here, I really want to make the most of this conversation. So we are coming to the end.
But I have been so blessed.
You are so blessed. And the fact is that you're sharing your blessings and you're helping.
Yes.
So you also mentor, don't you?
Yes, I do mentor.
And you coach.
And I mentor. And so I bring a group of women to the Savoy on a monthly basis, and we go into the private area of the...
Hello, I've got to be part of this crew now. Like, hello, you got to hook me up.
And so we share. And so I have a date for you, my darling.
Oh my God, we'll make it happen.
9th of May. It's a Thursday. I tend to be there on Fridays, but some
put it in the
people
diary.
Put it in the diary.
It's just before I go to the Caribbean for a few weeks. So
that's fine.
Perfect.
It's after I return from the Caribbean.
Oh, we'll have to exchange notes. Are you going back to Jamaica?
I'm going to Jamaica.
So do you go to Jamaica like quite a lot, or?
Yes, I go to Jamaica and I go to other places because I have to go back to my roots.
You have to.
I've got to go back and get the rhythm, and But when I have been so blessed. Who would have thought, a little barefoot girl coming here at age 19 to get the MBE, to get the CBE, the Queen's Medal, and now the damehood. Who would have thought?
And it's all about having that successful mindset.
Yes.
Anything is possible. So what is next for you?
Just enjoy life. Enjoy life. Who knows? But one thing I know that is next, that I'm always looking at encouraging and opening doors for other women. Who do I know? What are your interests? So my strapline through Beacon is very much about transforming people and organizations to develop their vision, their creativity, and their intelligence. And I am the midwife to your dreams.
I love that. That is a perfect way to end it. But we've got one final question.
Go for it.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving. So this is called D.A.R.E. We've explained what the D.A.R.E. model is all about, but we also end every single podcast conversation with, what do you dare our audience and our listeners to do?
Aim for the stars.
Aim for the stars.
Aim for the stars.
I love that.
And settle for nothing less but absolutely everything. And that means ensuring that your skills, your expertise are appreciated and you market yourself.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here and being the D.A.R.E podcast guest in partnership with City AM. It's an absolute pleasure to get to know you a bit better, to learn about your story. We've gone through everything from Windrush to the healthcare to how to get a damehood and so much more. So thank you. I know the audience are going to love this episode. And for those that aren't aware, you can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube, and we're available on all the usual podcast platforms. Thank you very much for listening. And for those that don't know, I am Miranda Braun, and I am the host and the producer for the D.A.R.E podcast. I'm also the founder and the president for the Miranda Braun Diversity Leadership Foundation. Thank you for listening, and go out and dare to be the best that you can be. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you too.